Thanks, folks. Welcome to this special midweek edition of the City Council meeting. All of our councilors are present this evening. Madam Vice President.
Thank you, Mr. President. At this time, we're going to have our moment of silence. Then we'll have the Pledge of Allegiance in English. Councilor Basan will lead us in that. And then the Pledge of Allegiance in Spanish, Councilor Pena will lead us in that. Will you all stand with me? Of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Civic Plaza parking passes are provided for members of the public. You can obtain a parking pass from council staff at the table near the chamber's entrance. Members of the public, city staff, and the media have the ability to view this meeting in person and on live streams through 4 different platforms: GovTV on Comcast Channel 16, the GovTV website, YouTube, and Zoom webinar. The live streams can be accessed from most smartphones, tablets, or computers. Also, this meeting is closed captioned, and you may enable the closed captioning services on your television or device at this time. The video recording of this and all past council meetings will remain available for viewing at any time on the City Council's website. Council staff is available via telephone if members of the public need assistance finding the videos online. Please call 505-768-3100 for assistance during business hours, Monday through Friday, 8 to 5 p.m. The council will take a break at approximately 7 p.m. this evening if needed. With regard to decorum in the chambers, we want tonight's proceedings to be as civil and respectful as possible. Please do not make any personal attacks, and please no applause or outbursts during the meeting. The meeting will go a lot smoother if we are respectful of one another. At this time, we're going to have our proclamations and presentations. Councilor Jones.
You have a stronger thumb than I do.
Okay.
Thank you, Madam Vice President. We have a proclamation tonight. If we could get Dr. Shirley Abraham, Director of UNM Department of Pediatric Oncology, Hematology, and her patient Samantha Keller and her mother Jolene to come forward, please. Thank you for being here tonight. This is a proclamation recognizing Childhood Cancer Awareness Month. Dr. Shirley Abraham, Director of UNM Department of Pediatric Oncology and Hematology, and patient Samantha Keller and her mother Jolene are here to accept. And here is the proclamation. Whereas childhood cancer is the leading cause of death by disease in children, and whereas 1 in 285 children in the United States will be diagnosed by their 20th birthday, and whereas 46 children per day, or 16,790 children per year, are diagnosed with cancer in the U.S., and whereas at least 1 child from New Mexico is diagnosed with cancer each week, and whereas the average age of diagnosis is 6 years old, and whereas 80% of childhood cancer patients are diagnosed late and with metastatic disease, and whereas on average there's been a 0.6% increase in incidence per year since the mid-1970s, resulting in an overall incidence increase of 24% over the last 40 years. And whereas 2/3 of childhood cancer patients will have chronic health conditions as a result of their treatment toxicity, with 1/4 being classified as severe to life-threatening. And whereas in the last 30 years, only 6 new drugs have been approved by the FDA to specifically treat childhood cancer. And whereas researchers and healthcare professionals work diligently dedicating their expertise to treat and cure children with cancer. And whereas too many children are affected by this deadly disease, and more must be done to raise awareness and to find a cure. Therefore, be it proclaimed that the council, the governing body of the city of Albuquerque, hereby proclaims the month of September as Childhood Cancer and Awareness Month. Thank you for being here. And if you would like to step up and say something, and then come up front, we have a proclamation to hand to you. Would any of you like to speak? Thank you, Doctor.
Thank you, all of you, for having us here. It is a great action to increase awareness for childhood cancer. And as our counselor said, there is a lot to be done in the area of pediatric cancer. And there is still a lot of studies being done to improve the survival. And we want all our patients to be able to get into adulthood and have a healthy and normal life. So thank you, and it's my honor to be here and to receive this proclamation on behalf of our patients. Thank you.
Thank you. Would you like to say something? All right. Come on around here, and we'd love to shake your hands.
Thank you, Councilor Jones. Councilor Pena.
Thank you, Madam Vice President. So this proclamation is for Hispanic Heritage Month. So if we can have the speakers come up, I think we have with us today Orlando Marquez, Dominique Facio, Beatriz Valencia from the Office of Equity and Inclusion. And I don't see Director Sanchez, I didn't ask her to be here, but just in relation, I know I'm going to read this proclamation. We do it with you guys every year, volunteers, just doing good in the community every year to highlight Hispanic Heritage Month. But I know the city is launching something internally as well, so we're real happy about that. But with that, I think we're going to start by reading the proclamation, and we'll start with Councilor Lewis.
Right. Whereas National Hispanic Heritage Month is a time to celebrate the heritage and culture of Hispanic and Latin Americans, and
whereas the countrywide observation of Hispanic heritage started in 1968 as Hispanic Heritage Week under President Lyndon B. Johnson, and on August 17, 1988, was expanded by President Ronald Reagan to a 30-day period starting on September 15th and ending on October 15th. And
whereas the city of Albuquerque recognizes the important presence of Hispanic and Latin Americans and the contributions they have made to our country by enhancing and shaping our national character with centuries-old traditions that reflect the multi-ethnic and multicultural customs of their communities, and
whereas as of today, 62.6 million people, or 18.9% of the entire American population, are of Hispanic or Latino origin, and
whereas the National Hispanic Heritage Month recognizes American citizens whose ancestors originated from Spain, Mexico, the Caribbean, and Central and South America, and
whereas the participation of Hispanics in today's economy has become vital for the growth of America, with Hispanics representing one of the major driving forces of economic success for millions of people residing both in and out of the United States, and
whereas this year's theme is Todos somos uno, we are all, we are one. And
whereas this is an important time for our community to come together to recognize the traditions of Hispanic and Latin Americans and the rich sense of culture that they bring to the United States.
So be it proclaimed that the council, the governing body of the city of Albuquerque, hereby proclaims September 15th to October 15th as one Albuquerque's National Hispanic Heritage Month. So thank you guys for all your work, and I don't know if you want to say a few words, Orlando, or any of your guests.
Members of City Council, the public at large, it is an honor to stand before you today as we kick off Hispanic Heritage Month for the state of New Mexico and the city of Albuquerque at large. The national theme is, as was mentioned in the proclamation, is Todos somos uno. We are all, we are one. And it's a great opportunity to reflect although in lieu of some of the differences that we may have, it's time for us to celebrate those differences in an effort to understand each other better in order to solve the problems that are facing our community. Our job is to preserve, promote, celebrate all things Hispanic, Latino culture, and history. And what better way to do that with the support of City Council that has supported us for years and years. I stand before you to thank you, Councilwoman Clarissa Pena, for your years of dedication to this committee and support. Thank you for all that you have done to support this committee, and every single one of the City Council members who have, an abundance of Hispanics in your circles, in your families, in your communities. We stand before you to represent that community as best we can, and we will be doing that tomorrow with a kickoff in the historic Old Town Plaza, which you are all invited to, and everybody here. It's open to the public, and help us celebrate what makes this amazing community in Albuquerque so special. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for being here. Appreciate it. So we look forward to seeing you tomorrow. If you guys want to come around and get the proclamation, so.
Thank you. Those are always so nice. At this time, we're going to move on to administration question and answer period. Counselors, any questions for the administration? President Davis, let's start with you.
Thank you, Madam Vice Chair. Mr. Real, maybe you can help me with members from the administration if you can help. As you're aware, I became aware of a concern about what a constituent called ACS, or called 311, requesting a community safety response for some residents, homeless residents that appeared to be living in a vehicle at a park in Southeast Heights in the Knoxville area. They specifically, when they called, requested ACS because there wasn't a crime committed. They were aware of our protocols and knew that there was no crime there, requested an ACS response. And when 2 days later, when the person in the vehicle had reported they hadn't seen anybody and was waiting on services, we followed up from my office and learned that 311 had routed the call to the Parks Department because the caller had mentioned that they were adjacent to a park. And in further sort of evaluation of that, we discovered that that's a fairly common practice, as I understand it, through the 311 scripting and routing process. And in speaking with ACS and other city departments, it appears that we're not capturing, that although our marketing about ACS tells folks to call 311 to request ACS, in fact, a lot of those are going to other places, including when someone calls for ACS at a bus stop, it goes to the transit department, sometimes for a transit bus stop cleanup that can take weeks, which is not the purpose of the call at all. And so I know we've been talking a little about this, but I wonder if you can tell me a little bit about how that routing works. And let me preface that by saying, with all it's a multi-part question, right? How does that happen? And I think my bigger concern is, I think part of this is, are we capturing the data and the information we need to know the level of service that is required by ACS if we're parting those out to other departments that may take those as maintenance requests or trash pickup requests instead of human service calls? What are we doing there? How do we do it better?
Mr. President and members of the council, look, this question is really appropriate in that we have had the same feedback here over the last couple of weeks where 311 receives the phone call gets a location, if you will, of whatever is happening. And the issue really is they respond to the location, to the agency that would normally be, requested to do the follow-up. Right. A park, typically you have the park department responding to that. The ACS call-out is a very different request because typically, as you know, and all of you know, ACS responds a lot more to what we would consider to be public safety calls rather than just simply someone's at a park, et cetera. And I do think that there is some work that we need to do there in creating a much better, if you will, handoff between a caller that is calling related to a park and maybe a misuse of a park, whether or not somebody's out there publicly, creating a nuisance versus an ACS in which maybe there is a need for a mental health counselor or some more direct, if you will, intervention. Having said that, we are reviewing all of those cases because, to your point, is that we do not want to create a scenario in that if there is a issue that requires that kind of a response, what we've seen also is the issue associated with it when it's a public safety related issue and then it is reported to 911, and then all of a sudden we're caught in between whether 911 responded with an officer or whether ACS. So there has been some challenges there for us, admittedly, and we are working on trying to ensure that we provide a better coordination with 311 in that people are calling that service for what might routinely be a department request, not an ACS. But because ACS is more, if you will, involved in the community now, a lot of folks are using ACS for that purpose. Yeah. And having the ability for the 311 operator to actually, if you will, triage the call to try and make a determination whether or not it really is an appropriate ACS response or whether it should be, as in the case of a transit stop, whether it really just needs to be a maintenance crew to go out and clean up a facility. So we are doing that work with 311 to get those kinds of triage, if you will, structure in place so that we can recognize those that are legitimately an ACS response and those that require a more appropriate response from departments. I know that our director for ACS is in the audience, and I'd love to have her come up and maybe give you a little more information in that we just started the 24/7 program, if you will, and expanding ACS into the evenings. So the call volumes are going up. And I know that
that's the second part of my question.
Yes, that she would be able to provide you a lot more detail about that. But, just being candid with you all, we're working on that piece of it because it is an important piece and that we need to triage better at 311 to ensure that we get the right response for the right issue.
And I do see Director Ruiz behind you there. And Director, I'd love to have you back at a more, when we have time to script something more formal for everybody so they can have their questions, because I know as we're rolling that out, we have some more. But maybe briefly, just if you could help us talk about sort of that triage. And let me ask, what are your response times right now? We've added some extra shifts, we've added some extra things, but I've seen some numbers that, quite frankly, concern me a little bit.
They're concerning to me, and I actually just got off the phone, so thank you, Counselor and Counselors. We definitely, as we expanded into a 24/7 model, have seen an uptick, not just in 311 calls, but 911 calls as well. And the level of acuity on our calls is much higher, meaning that our response time takes longer when we get there, right, the time that we're on the call, to try to get somebody to the service that's appropriate and needed. And with that said, it is starting to, just like right now when I got here, we're already 30 calls deep that have been pending for probably an hour or two. I love APD, but I don't want to become the new APD. But part of that reasoning is that it's also everybody wanted a piece of them, right? We were asking APD to be our officers and our social workers and our cleanup crews and, our transit folks. And I think this is where we're starting to have to figure out how we prioritize. So just like CAO Rael said, I think right now we're in the process of figuring out our leveling. Graveyard has been fantastic. We're actually seeing more calls come in during the graveyard time, but it's probably because there's been some pending calls from the swing shift. So it's a great thing that people want us to use, that people want to use ACS. Our fear is the same thing, though, which is that if somebody's in a crisis, that we're able to get to that. Now, I will tell you the calls that pend are pending the longest tend to be bystander calls. And by the time we get there, even if we do get there within an hour, they're almost always gone. So I think we're just having to figure out how to give and take. We've also seen an uptick in our crisis intervention unit doing referrals to ACS. Homelessness is not being solved today. And so I appreciate all of your patience as we figure, and get through this. I think the other thing I will say is part of the funding that you guys gave us at mid-year, which we're very appreciative, is to also create triage specialists. So similar to other departments that have a triage component, this will help us to take those 311 calls or even the 911 calls that are pending and have somebody who is physically looking at those separate than police, separate than dispatch, and separate than 311 to be able to say, okay, even out of the 20 that are pending, these are your top 5, these are your next 10, this is right, so that it allows us to really be able to see that. But we're 2 years old today. This is our 2-year anniversary, and it's amazing that we've gotten as far as we have. So still really proud of what we're doing, and I hope that you guys are seeing the impact in your neighborhoods. But I do appreciate the flexibility and the patience as we really work to try to get this right.
And Madam Vice President and Director, really quickly, I want to bring you back at a time when we can put it on the agenda and have more time. But I remember when we rolled this out 2 years ago, right? We spent a lot of time in our public meetings and a few private meetings when you were downstairs in the old Water Authority, that looking at sort of those triage trees, right, for 311 and 911, and what questions we were asking to get them to the right spot. Are those still live? Or, well, maybe we should ask, are those living? Are they accurate? Are we using them? Because it's sounding to me like in some instances, we're missing that first level, as I recall it, which is less about the location and more about the person. It feels like we're moving more and more back into, oh, you're in a park, let's go there. Like,
The tree is still, Madam President and President, thank you. The tree is still working, and it is, I think, what's making this complicated. Is in full transparency is that some of our homelessness calls, we get two different things. We want the humane, please find somebody and get help. I think everybody wants that when we get that. But a lot of times it's please get this person off the sidewalk because it's a hazard. So if a 311 ticket comes in for, let's say, First and Indian School, which right now it's completely blocked off, it doesn't make sense for ACS to go out there because it's an immediate hazard and somebody could potentially get hurt. So that's a situation where either we're going to let Metro Security or police handle that situation immediately. Sometimes we get called to a park and it says, I just passed by and there's people in the park, but there's a bunch of trash. Again, we can go out there, but I also am having to figure out, is the behavioral health suicide call more important or the person who called because they want their kids to play in the park? And I can have parks go and handle that situation without having to pull out a specialist out of the field.
and Madam Vice President, my last question, and Director, you had mentioned in some of your back and forth that you were concerned about response times getting up to 72 hours. Is that a real number, or is that a crisis time, or what are our real response times right now on the longest term service?
President and councilors, for 311 tickets, we give ourselves a 48 to 72 hour leniency on those, and I think that's pretty standard. We will try to get to it sooner than that. I mean, I looked at the calls right before I came in because I was worried about that, just from a 311 perspective. And I think there's a piece of this that there's some residents now who know that ACS may not get dispatched from a 911 level because it might be too dangerous. And so they're calling 311 as potentially an alternative. And that has been happening, right, more often. We're even getting calls to our office more often of residents saying, I have a situation, and we've had to say, this is not an appropriate call for us. We're going to have you call 911. So I think that's part of why we're having to figure this out, because I think people see it as a loophole. I need to get assistance right away. Instead of calling 911, I'll just call Director Ruiz and she can send somebody. So this
Not
is
that we ever do that.
Yeah, these are just the pain points these are just the pain points that we're dealing with, and they're valid, right? But some of these are systemic that we're working through, and some of them are things that we just need to be able to level out and grow. And also part of it is really just figuring out some of the larger pain points, which, to go back to, is sometimes our homelessness. We're seeing a lot of those calls come out.
And Madam Vice President, I don't want to overstay my welcome here, and I think I'd love to have it. If the clerk could help us, and maybe Director, Mr. Real, you still have a data analyst director, is that right? We funded one.
Yeah.
Could you help work with Director Moya and our staff I'd love to have you all back at the first of maybe next month. That gives us a month. Work with our staff. Let's figure out what our current status is. Let's look at our budget objectives to see where we are against those as we're rolling this out. I think my concern is there is some really amazing one-on-one work happening in our city, but everybody's overwhelmed with service needs. But I don't want us to fall so far behind that people give up on this program or start to think that we're not able to execute well. And I want to be sure we're resourcing that well at mid-year and otherwise. This was just a good example of a call that sort of got to our level, but it concerns me how many that don't. And don't get to your level and maybe wait 72 hours because we don't have the right information. And so we want to make that as well as possible. That's my goal. And if you could work with us, I'd love to have you back in a month or so with some data, and let's have that review if that's okay.
Absolutely.
Thanks.
Thank you. Counselor Sanchez?
Thank you. I have a question as well for ACS. A couple of things that are concerning to me is that you said you've been doing this for 2 years now, and you said you're still trying to figure out how to prioritize. To me, that should have been one of the first things that you should be doing is prioritizing, making sure that the calls are handled in a certain way. As a matter of fact, I think when you and I had our meeting about a year ago, you had discussed that you were working on this very issue. So, and to hear that it's still not happening is actually concerning. Hearing that there's 30 calls pending right now and that it could take up to 72 hours for somebody to get there is basically not what we need as a council or as the city of Albuquerque. We needed the ACS team to be in there helping, making sure that the police can get to other calls, supplementing the police. That's what this whole program was supposed to be for. And if it's not working, then why are we funding it the way we are? Another thing is an issue with the 911 calling 311. So now we've confused the public, is what I'm hearing as well, is the public is completely confused if they're calling 911 and they think that they're going to get more response from 311. That goes to tell me two things. One, we've confused them. Two, they're calling a non-emergency number for an emergency, which is extremely, extremely concerning to me, and it should be concerning to the public as well. That is a total failure, in my opinion. People, based on pain points that you discussed, all of the things that you discussed would usually be taken care of by an officer if we had enough officers. When I was a police officer, all the different pain points that you discussed were all handled by us as regular officers. If I saw a couch out there, I got on the phone and I called and got that 311 and that couch picked up. If I saw some graffiti, I'd get on the phone in my area and I'd call the graffiti in. If I saw somebody hanging out on a street corner that they shouldn't be, then I went over there and made them move. If they were breaking the law. If they were suspected of dealing drugs, then we went out there and we handled it. ACS, in my opinion, is not doing what it's supposed to be doing and what we were expecting it to do. And hearing this after 2 years is extremely concerning.
Madam President and Councilor Sanchez, just to kind of clarify, so calls that are pending for 48 to 72 hours are not 911 calls. That's a 311 call. That's typical response time from most departments. So that's not a emergency 911 call. That is somebody who did call the 311 call. Now, in regards to your comment for people calling 311 versus 911, in my personal opinion, these are people who weren't going to call 911 to begin with because they don't want to interact with the police officer. So I would rather them call 311 to at least get a response from somebody before they then don't call anybody. And we do get a lot of calls like that. I get a lot of calls from 311 that actually are issues of domestic violence.
We're not giving them the response at all.
But we are, but there is a
very, very, very long time to have to wait for any type of response.
So to go back again, those 311 calls, although they might pend, that's not standard. I mean, our calls, when we get those and we can pull the record, so I agree with bringing a report and figuring out how we can actually show you the data. We definitely are making sure that we're hitting all that. Now, when I talk about prioritizing, when we talked 6 months ago, when we brought this up 2 years ago, the first 3 months of ACS, we got 0 calls for service. We took nothing but 311 calls and proactive responses, just cruising central all the way from 98th to Tramway. So at the end of the day, you know, we have to realize that this has never been done nationwide. We're leading literally the pack in something that is super innovative and has helped APD, and is now we're seeing it across the board, helping other police departments, and in being sent to locations to talk to other chiefs of police who need this support. So I agree with you. I think that we have to be able to be flexible, and we have to shift where we need to shift, because this has never been done before. So I understand priorities in your eyes that we should have figured it out on day one. It's just not the way programs work. The reality is we have to take things, chunk it out, and then see where we're at in 6 months. Even this graveyard situation now, in 6 months, when we turn over into a new shift, I'm going to have to reevaluate to better understand my staffing levels, to better understand where I place people in the city, and to better prioritize the calls that are coming to ACS. I never thought I'd take domestic violence. I never thought we would take suicide in progress, and we are. And now I have to plan for that. So I appreciate your flexibility, and I appreciate your patience, and I hope that, you know, at some point, again, we're hoping that we can sit down and have you go on a ride-along, because I really think that would make a big difference in how you see this department.
Okay, set up the ride-along.
All right.
I'm ready for that.
Thank you.
Madam President.
Councilor Lewis.
Madam Vice President, and Director, completely understandable. I think you have our patience here. And it doesn't sound like you have all this data. I think that's something you're working on. You said you would. As far as the amount of, I would be interested in the amount of incoming calls through 311 as opposed to 911, because that does, you know, provide the. It goes back to the purpose of the department, which is to be able to give some relief to our officers and 911 calls. And so if a lot of the data that we're getting and that you're demonstrating is calls that would have gone through 311 anyways. I mean, and I think that's why it's important that we receive not just the calls in the number of calls and things like that, but how was that call resolved? I mean, what was happening? What was the issue? How was it resolved? Because that would show us, you know, if it was something that an officer would have responded to in the past or not. So, I mean, this discussion has brought up I think some pretty good, you know, at least for me, some questions in that regard that I think as the department evolves that we would want to have that.
And thank you. I appreciate it, Counselor, and appreciate the encouragement. We, at one point, were sending counselors a monthly report, and then it felt like it was too much. I think what we heard from some of the staff was it was a little too much. So then we went to quarterly, and so I think we've been lax on that. So we'll make sure that you guys go back to at least a quarterly or an every other month. I just don't want to bombard, but definitely I think the data is going to be really important going forward. Thank you.
Thank you. I'd like to thank you, Director, for going out during the graveyard shift for that week when it rolled out. I think that shows your leadership. It's very important that people see that even the people at the top are doing that. And so thank you for doing that. You saw some things that you probably didn't realize you'd see. And so I wanted to tell you thank you for doing that. I'm also very interested in knowing how calls for service were resolved. I think that will speak volumes, and it'll make a lot more sense to people and seeing the need and the benefit of this program. So thank you.
Thank you all.
You're welcome. Hey, Councilor Bassan.
Madam Vice President, I was reviewing the video recording of our council meeting on August 7th. And during the administrative questions and answers, Mr. Rayal, you said that Phase 0 is required to get the site ready for the North Domingo Baca Aquatic Center construction. So is that still true?
Mr. President and Councilor Bassan, as far as my understanding is, yes, that's correct.
Mr. Rayal, is the retaining wall part of the splash pad project?
Mr. President and Councilor Bassan, no, that is part of the infrastructure necessary to get the site prepared for the project.
For the splash pad or the North Domingo Baca Aquatic Center?
For the Aquatic Center.
Okay, thank you. Did we get a price and a schedule from Basic IDIQ for Phase 0 of the Aquatic Center?
Mr. President and Councilor Bassan, Mr. Montoya is here, and I asked him to prepare answers to all your questions that you sent earlier. And so if you wouldn't mind, I will turn it over to him. He'll give you all the information.
Thank you, thank you. Hi, Director. Thank you for answering these questions.
Madam Vice President and Councilor Bassan, so the answer to your question is yes. We did get a quote from Basic IDIQ on Friday afternoon, and that was presented to us at lunchtime.
And so can you explain, I guess, kind of going off script a little bit, but, you know, when we talk about phase 0 and the retaining wall, I was told, I guess I'm not going off, I'm going out of order, but will a change order be used for phase 0 at the North Domingo Baca Aquatic Center?
Mr. President and Councilor Bassan, it will not. So the work order for the splash pad is independent of the infrastructure work. We are using Basic IDIQ under their on-call contract. They have the capacity on there to do the work that we've asked them to do. So we are issuing a new work order with a new activity number, so it is not part of the splash pad itself. We try to keep both projects separate from each other.
Okay, thank you. And so can you explain to me, if we use an on-call contractor for this contract, is that legal to use in Albuquerque?
Mr. President and Councilor Bassan, we have used change orders as far back as when I was CIP official, so back in 1993. Nothing has changed other than the fact that we now use DocuSign as opposed to a hard copy. But is it a legal document? It is. A change order addresses several issues within a project or a department's request. And I'll just give you a very quick example. We may have a wall that is going to be 5 feet tall, and then halfway through the project, the department director or the project manager determines that that wall should be 9 feet tall. What we do is we issue the change order. We include the price of the change itself. It's signed by the project manager, by the CIP official, Mr. Motzko, myself, and then it's signed by the contractor. In some cases, the CIO will sign that. In most cases, he does not need to because it's under a certain limit threshold, but a change order is a legal document that we use for most of our projects.
Okay, and so you just told us, Director, that we're not going to use a change order, though, for the retaining wall, that it's a separate contract. So is this separate contract using the on-call contractor of Basic IDIQ, is that legal to do?
Mr. President, Councilor Bassan, that is legal.
Maybe I should ask you, sorry, but thank you. I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I was realizing I might be needing to ask Ms. Keefe, but
All right.
thank you.
And Madam President, or Mr. President, and Councilor Bassan, I may just add a little bit of clarity here. When you and I spoke on the phone tonight, and when I spoke here, you know, there are two ways to do this. One is do a change order to an existing contract, as Mr. Montoya said, or the other option is to use an on-call that has the, if you will, the limits that you all approve, and if we can do a separate contract that avoids us having to go out through the RFP process to get a new contractor in place. So when I said to you that we were going to do a change order, that would have been one way of doing it, but Mr. Montoya and I met and talked about this, and he thought it would be cleaner just to have the same contractor and add an additional project to that so that it would be a new contract, so that the splash pad and the infrastructure improvements for the North Domingo Baca project, pool project, are separate. So his point is that you'll get what you want, which is a quick, if you will, work on the infrastructure. It'll just be not a change order, but a new contract with the same contractor that was doing the splash pad. Which means it saves us the mobilization costs and all of the other costs associated with having a brand-new contractor on site.
Thank you both, Madam Vice President. So, I mean, just recently, somebody had mentioned to me that it might be illegal to do what we're doing, so I wanted to make sure to clarify so I could see what I could do to ensure that that person finds out that maybe that's not the case. So, Director, since we got the price and the schedule from Basic IDIQ for Phase 0 of the Aquatic Center, can you make sure, will you please, if you're so inclined, send it over to me so that I can see it?
Mr. President and Councilor Bassan, that is not an issue for us. We will share that with you and with the group that meets the project team on a biweekly basis.
Thank you, Director. What is the cost of Phase 0 that has come in?
The estimate that, Mr. President and Councilor Bassan, the estimate that came in, that we're actually going to use, is 4.7 for the retaining wall, all the infrastructure that goes with that, and then $200,000 for actual soil testing. So we've budgeted $5 million for prepping for the actual pool itself.
Thank you. I'll skip one of them because I think we kind of answered that one already. Are all the designs from Hewitt-Zollers now complete for the North Domingo Baca Aquatic Center?
Mr. President and Councilor Bassan, the answer is at 95%, so yes. All of those plans are in our office now. They've been reviewed by all of the appropriate staff members, as well as those departments that have an interest in the pool itself. We've made our comments and changes to the architect. They will refine those and then submit those to the planning department for permitting. We anticipate that all of that will be complete by late October, hopefully in a period of time to put this out to bid.
And that would be for the bid, you're talking for the RFP for phase 1, which will be for the natatorium or the outdoor pool, or depending on where we're at with budget and pricing.
Mr. President and Councilor Bassan, that's correct.
Okay, thank you. Has the planning department received the documents needed to work on permitting for phase 0 of the North Domingo Baca Aquatic Center?
Mr. President and Councilor Bassan, Director Varela is here, but I will answer that question, and if I'm wrong, he can correct me. All of the appropriate departments have signed off on the renderings or the drawings for phase 0. The last one was actually signed off today. Those documents are now sent to the impact fee division. They'll assess the impact fees that will need to go with this project. If all goes well, by this time next week, the permit will be issued.
And so what happens, Director, after the permit's issued?
Mr. President and Councilor Bassan, in the work order, it actually will spell out the time frame when the contractor is allowed to start. And we're allowing him right at 20 weeks, a completion date of about February the 1st. So once that is issued, we have a verbal agreement with the contractor that he's authorized to order that equipment that has a lead time of more than 16 weeks. That is a verbal agreement between the two of us. However, the work order itself should be issued. The purchase order was issued in the department. The work order will be issued to the contractor, I would think, by the 3rd week of September, so a couple of weeks out.
Okay, so that's for phase 0. So the work order will be issued to Basic IDIQ.
Correct.
In the next couple of weeks.
Correct.
Then they have until February to get their ducks in a row and begin?
They have given us the time frame for construction of that all the infrastructure. They anticipate starting work right around the 1st of October, even though they're mobilizing now, with about a 20-week period. So we've calculated right around February 1st in order to have everything ready to start. If we're at that point with whatever phase of the pool we're going to construct, have everything ready by then.
Okay, so 1st of October for phase 0, and then their time frame allows them to the 1st-ish of February.
Correct.
Thank you. Okay. Okay, I'm moving on, I think. Thank you very much, Director. That clarified a whole bunch for me.
Okay.
So, Ms. Keefe, I know that we talked about this, but I do want to still ask, if possible, so that we can clarify for everybody. So, I know that there's counselors that have sat on planning meetings for different district-specific projects. I'm fairly confident almost, if not all of us, have done so. Is it a violation of the separation of powers for a counselor to be involved in those meetings?
Council President, Councilor Bassan, no, it's not. And if I could just explain a little bit, there's actually a very helpful opinion in New Mexico that really kind of lays out separation of powers a little more clearly than you often get in New Mexico law. But so this body, the legislative body, can allocate funds, and the administration can expend those funds within the parameters set by this body. The example I always like to use is if you allocate funds for playground equipment, they have to buy playground equipment, but they can decide what brand, they can decide what contractor, they can decide what color, all of those things. But that's not to say that this body can't provide guidance and express opinions and be involved in the decision-making process. It just can't direct those decisions. So you can absolutely attend meetings, you can absolutely express opinions, you can make phone calls, you just can't make the ultimate decisions or direct the administration to take actions.
Which, for the record, I have not. So, thank you.
Sure.
And then, is it legal to have counselors, a counselor's staff, so whether it's our analysts and or the council staff, someone from just council that's one of the special projects analysts or whatnot to be on an ad hoc committee for an RFP process regarding district-specific projects.
So I did pose that question to our chief procurement officer this afternoon. Her opinion is that council members cannot be on these ad hoc committees because they are going to later vote on the awards being given. I would say that that would extend to your direct staff, your policy analysts. I hadn't really looked at whether other members of council staff could sit on those committees. I think that's a good question.
So, Ms. Keefe, if you can help me by looking into that, because I do think that we have some staff members that are not necessarily linked directly to any one of us in particular, but have really good, strong institutional knowledge to be able to contribute. And I will say that out of some of the discussions that we've had regarding the Aquatic Center, it was not a requirement or a demand or even a request of mine, but we were told by we, it's, you know, the meeting of certain people from DMD and parks and council staff and the architects for the Aquatic Center, that there are some senior analysts that are not just directly my analyst that would be involved in that process, and I don't want anyone to get in trouble, but I do think that that would be beneficial to make sure that the project is kind of moving forward. But if you can help me clarify so we make sure to stay on the up and up, that would be great.
Absolutely, I can do that.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Vice President.
Thank you for those questions. Any other questions? Okay, I have a few. First of all, I wanted to acknowledge the Solid Waste Department. Is Acting Director Billy Gallegos here? There he is. Thank you for being here this evening. I wanted to thank you for you and your team for working on Central, cleaning it up better. I know it's like every 24 hours you're having to go back there every day, and it seems like we're not making progress, but I know that you're trying, and I wanted to specifically say thank you to a few people that I know are working really hard. Abraham Sanchez, he's with the Clean City Superintendent of Solid Waste. Mark Sandoval, Illegal Dumping Encampment Supervisor of Solid Waste. Angelo Gallegos, he's the Associate Director for Solid Waste. And Daniel Tapia, he is with Operation Maintenance, the manager for DMD. So if you would please pass on my thanks and my gratitude, keep up the good work. The city's big, there's lots of, I'm really amazed at the coordination to pick up trash from all of the residents and then all of the businesses and then on the streets. I know you have a big job, and so thank you. I know it's a thankless job. It's not a fun job, but keep up the good work. And I know with our visitors that are coming for the fair and then for the balloon fiesta, we want to have a clean city, and so keep up the work. I know there's, people might think not very clean, but I know we're trying. I know you're trying, and so thank you.
You're very welcome. I will pass it on. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for being here. The next set of questions I have, it has, on September 1st, the New Mexico Environmental Health Department cited the city and issued over $761,000 in fines for what they called demonstrating plain indifference for the safety and health of employees and exposing employees to asbestos during the renovation of the Gateway Center. So Mr. Royale and the Director for Family and Community Services, whomever can answer these questions, I'd like to know first, is everyone okay that you know of that was exposed?
Mr. President and Councilor Grout, first and foremost, to the extent that we contacted all the folks that had been in and around the facility during the time of the construction of that particular area, we have not had any that I'm aware of, any claims. Folks have registered their concerns with our risk department about potentially having additional, if you will, review or services, if you will, that might, if they did if there was any issue, but no, we don't have anybody that I'm aware of that has issued a claim directly.
Thank you. Are any exposed employees being offered any kind of health monitoring services?
Mr. President and Counselor, when we reached out to them in the official, if you will, request to let them notify them that they may have been exposed to a potential situation, that included offering them the opportunity to solicit and to ask for any additional support. And I don't know, I'm not aware of any others asking for, or any employees asking for any of that, but we are certainly obviously available and ready to do that.
Thank you. How will this fine be paid and when? Will the funds come from FCS budget or for the Gateway or Risk Management Fund?
Mr. President and Councilor Grout and members of the council, let me just say this. I have said, and we've said publicly, look, some mistakes were made, no doubt, in terms of how this contract was managed and this project was managed, both on the city staff and on the contractor staff. When the issue was revealed, if you will, to be as acute as we have now understand it to have been, we did take corrective action to ensure that we had additional expertise, i.e. contracting with contractors who actually deal with this work and have had the entire site, if you will, the construction site, both for the previous phase that was done and the phase that are coming up, to ensure that those sites have been remediated completely from any hazardous materials, et cetera, that might exist. So the point is that we are taking this very seriously. And we will continue to look. We are reviewing the report that was issued by the Department of Environmental Health. We have some concerns with some of the findings in the report, and obviously we have some time to potentially appeal, and including having a conversation about the actual fine itself. We will do that. We have, I believe, the city attorney informed me, about 10 days. And so we will be formally appealing some of the findings in the report. But ultimately, these are risk management issues that will probably be assessed through the risk department. But I'm hopeful in my conversation, counselors, with the Department of Environmental Health. They are open to having a conversation about the actual fine and how we might apply the actual payment of the fine to potentially offering supportive programs for the intended purpose of supporting the community in such a way, not only to educate about the asbestos issues, but also potentially helping with the care that we're trying to give to a homeless population in the community. So I find that Secretary Kinney and the department are willing to work with us to try and find a solution that is a better situation than we find ourselves in this moment.
Thank you. Couple more questions. How is it that no one associated with the remodel investigated the possibility of asbestos and took steps to make sure that this work would be done properly?
Mr. President and Councilor Grau, as I said earlier, we did have a report that was issued when we purchased the building. The report did identify that it's an older building.
Mm-hmm.
That did identify some asbestos potential issues in several areas of the building. Upon issuance of the contract, et cetera, and the work, some steps were missed. We should have done a thorough review of the area. And to put it in perspective, it's about 4,000 square feet of about a 25 to 30,000 square foot area that was being, if you will, worked on during this portion of the project. Small area, but nonetheless very important, and actually very material that needed to be handled differently. So there were some steps that were missed in that process, and again, as I said to you earlier, we have taken the precautions or the necessary steps to remedy the situation. We're reviewing the report, and we will take the next steps to solve the issues associated with how we managed the project and the contractor that was involved with it.
Okay, thank you. Who was the project manager or the person in charge of the remodeling work?
Mr. President and Councilor Grout, he was an experienced city employee who had been worked for DMD and was transferred to GSD, to the Department of General Services. And if I might, just because of the issues that we're reviewing now as it relates to an investigation, would just tell you that I would prefer not to reveal that individual, just to say that we
Thank you.
know who it is.
I understand. Thank you. It's come to my attention that the original justification for buying the Gateway property was that it was an emergency, and the building was needed to house families during the pandemic. If it was an emergency purchase in the spring of 2021, why did it not start serving homeless people until a few weeks ago?
Well, Mr. President and Councilor Grout, to go back a little bit and tap a little bit to the history, this building was being used to house COVID-related families during the COVID crisis that we were all involved with, obviously. The state had leased the building from the previous owners and had actually made some improvements to the building to use that as an emergency COVID center during the pandemic. It was after the purchase was done, after that, if you will, or at least the tail end of the COVID, only when the voters approved the bond issue, if you will, that provided the financial dollars to actually enter into a purchase agreement for the building. The rationale at that point was simply twofold. One, if you will, the conditions that existed during COVID. We're very, I think, lucky as a community that through the good work of the department and the staff in different departments, that we had very few COVID cases related to the homeless population. And those that we did have were handled very carefully and very quickly. The dilemma was that as COVID was waning, our issues in the community were starting to get even more as a critical nature, in that we had a lot of people in the streets, et cetera. And the emergency was simply that we needed to make sure that we get a facility as soon as possible, and that we could purchase the building. Upon purchasing the building, however, because of our, if you will, of our IDO and the requirements in the IDO, we had to go through a conditional use permit process.
Mm-hmm.
That process it took almost 12 months, if not a little longer, in trying to get, if you will, through the hearing officer's review, et cetera, and ultimately, finally, creating the opportunity for us to move forward with construction and the work that's being done. So that's, in essence, why it took so long early on to get started. Obviously, the construction project itself took some time, and quite frankly, issues, as we've been talking about, that have come up with an old building that needs a little more, if you will. You know, it wasn't a state-of-the-art building, but on a practical level, this building actually does offer, obviously, us a great opportunity to expand more wraparound services than ever before. And then the last but not least, I would say to you, councilors, look, the cost of replicating even the portion that we have built today would be somewhere north of $35 million if you were to build this from new construction, simply because of the prices of construction today. So we are still in a very good place as it relates to the facility. And quite frankly, it also is another opportunity for us to have taken an abandoned building that would have otherwise might have been a challenge for us in other ways as a community, and putting it back to a reuse that actually adds some opportunities for redevelopment of that area. As much as I know that there are other redevelopment opportunities that we could have had, but look, there's a lot of activity there, a lot of expansion. We just know that 2 of the hospitals are expanding their work there and providing more services. The Veterans Administration is very much looking at expanding their veterans homeless outreach programs to that site. So there's some opportunities there that wouldn't have happened had we not been in this position today.
Okay, thank you. With that, we were also told that the Gateway would also be used to house families as well as individuals. Is that still an intent to be serving families?
Mr. President and Counselor, let me maybe have Ms. Pierce answer that particular question, as she's much more involved in the, if you will, in the structures of how we will be providing the services there.
Hi, Director. Thank you.
Council President and Councilor Grout, families in our system of care are being cared for at another location. And we began that in 2020, in the end of 2020. And that came out of COVID. But prior to that, we had families, we were keeping them sheltered out at the west side. We quickly learned that in our COVID experience, it was much better to have families inside. We had another location, and we maintain that location today. That's the model that we talk about, the Family Housing Navigation Center. It's the model which Gateway is built off of, and we've housed about 1,000 individuals out of that location.
Thank you, Director. Is that the Wellness Hotel?
Councilor Davis and Councilor Grout. Yes, it is the Wellness Hotel. We've just tried to, it's changed the name. Wellness kind of came out of COVID, but yes.
Okay. And so, there is no plan to have families at the Gateway?
Councilor Davis and Councilor Grout. The plan right now is really for individuals and couples, and really keep our families in a unique location to meet their needs better in that situation.
I ask all these questions because people ask me all the time. We thought that the Gateway was going to take care of all these homeless people that we're seeing on the streets, and they're not seeing that. And so my questions come from people that reach out to me. So that's where I'm coming from. I appreciate all the answers and more clarification. I want it to work. I want it to work. Thank you.
Mr. President and Councilor Grout, if I might just say this, because I appreciate all of you get this question. And look, certainly the mayor and I get the question. I think it's really important to recognize that on any given day, or night, I should say, even especially, with Gateway coming online, with the WEC, with all our providers that are out there providing services, we could potentially be at 1,000 people a night, if you will, providing services at some level, especially during the cold winter months, and we even saw a spike at the West Side facility during this hot time during the summer, where folks are looking for shelter. There are a lot more homeless people living in our community than that.
I know.
And I think the challenge for us as a community and for us as a city is to find meaningful ways to create opportunities to move folks into housing and to create that next level, if you will, of support that needs to happen. Because as we have talked about it, and many of the councilors have said to us over and over, it really is about a housing model that provides affordable housing to get some of these folks into housing. So I want to just lay that groundwork, because it is going to be a long road, if you will. And look, the last piece is not everybody wants to go to a facility. And that really is what we see often enough when we're doing the outreach to the community, and to especially the homeless community, in that some refuse services, and they have their prerogative and their right to do that. And so it really is a balancing act to try and provide them the services that they need, and provide the wraparound services to help them get to a different place. But I do appreciate your questions, and
Thank you.
It's a continued work in progress for sure.
Thank you. Appreciate you. Any other questions, councilors? Okay. Councilor Pena.
I apologize, because you should have been the last one to ask a question, because you asked us that. But I just have a quick question for Mr. Director Varela, just because it's something that I think I'd mentioned before, and just kind of want to rehash it, just because of some landscaping issues at some businesses. So my question is, just real quick, and we can follow up on it later, just to get real clarification. But when developers come in, they do a site development plan, like they're going to build a grocery store, and they do a site development plan, and they have to do landscaping, parking, all this and that. So the landscaping, it's a requirement for the site development plan. What recourse do we have to ensure that they keep up that landscaping? Like some businesses, kind of current businesses, have, they built, closed down, they did the site development plan for landscaping, and then they moved out, and then they just let everything die. So now the new businesses come in, and there's no landscaping, and there's no like incentive to redo that landscaping. So is there any kind of recourse? Because they come in and they're required to do that in order to get something passed.
And Council President and Vice President and Councilor Pena, that's a very good question. The IDO sets forth most of the requirements as well as the development process manual for landscaping. Those are calculated so that there is, tree coverage, et cetera, to prevent, the heat areas in town. And that's a requirement for the initial site plan, and maintenance is part of that. However, when a company goes broke, goes out of business, leaves town, et cetera, I don't off the top of my head have the answer as to what the remedy is for maintaining that landscaping. It always comes down to a matter of who, is there an accountable party, and do they have the resources to actually maintain the landscaping? We can look into that and see what remedies might be available, but off the top of my head, I do not know when there's a transition in ownership or when there's a bankruptcy situation.
Madam, Mr. President, Madam Vice President. So, yeah, because it is in the IDO, and you go through this whole rigmarole, and then you have like, for example, we have the Albertsons that closed down, and they had grass, and they had trees, and they had, this beautiful landscaping, and then they closed down, and now, fortunately, Choose Fitness moved in there, but they didn't do anything to kind of do anything with the landscaping. So it's just basically, it's Choose, and it's nice, but the grass is dead, the trees are dying, so maybe a policy moving forward just to be able to say that, if they don't maintain it, because even if the business shuts down, the property owner is the one that should be responsible for the maintenance and upkeep, because feels like this is a reason why we have some of the buildings start to become dilapidated, and they look like they're no investment or disinvestment in communities throughout the city. So if we can at minimum, have them keep up with the landscaping, I think that would be helpful, and it'll be helpful for them to get new tenants as well.
Yeah, and Council Leadership and Councilor Pena, with that sort of a scenario, I would think that they inherit the obligations under the approved landscaping site plan, because they are operating under that site plan and that approved use. And so I would think that we would be able to make them comply with the original terms of the approved site plan.
So, Mr. President, Madam Vice President, so for the next meeting, can we kind of get like a report on that, just kind of what we can do, or what are the possibilities, or what the law says?
Certainly, yes.
Okay, thank you. Apologize for that.
Thank you, Director.
I'll follow up.
Councilor
Madam Vice President, thank you. Just from my own experience as an architect in the past, pre-IDO, I hope IDO didn't get rid of this. Those approvals, that's a sign, somebody that the applicant signs, but that runs with the property. So as you implied, I hope that would be the case, and that we would, I realize enforcement of this stuff is hard to just, we don't have inspectors out driving around and seeing whether a long-standing landscape plan is still being maintained, but, complaint-driven process, it would seem that it would run with the property regardless of who the tenant is. I don't know whether Define Fitness bought that property or whether they're leasing it or whoever, but the owner and then the transfer of ownership, I would think would still maintain those requirements.
Yes, I agree, Council President and Councilor Mint. But we will get more information on which provisions within the IDO or other ordinances allow for the avenue for seeking forced compliance in those
Thank you.
areas.
And Mr. President, Madam Vice President, sorry. And just to add to that is just that, like when they let everything die there at the Albertsons, I mean, the cost of just bringing it back is just a huge investment. So it would have behooved them just to keep watering, so anyway, thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? All right, let's move on. Where are we? The journal. I move approval of the August 21st journal. Okay, we have a second. All those in favor, raise your hand and say aye. Aye. Opposed? That unanimously passes. Mr. President.
Thank you, Madam Vice President and Councilors. We're on to communications and introductions. Are there any changes to tonight's letter of introduction? Councilor Benton, do you have one?
Yes, I do. Speaking of trees. R-164, I move that the rules be suspended for placing R-164 on tonight's agenda for action. R-164 is directing the administration of the city to install street trees at the Albuquerque Biopark and making an appropriation.
Second.
We have a motion in multiple seconds. We need to vote on the rule suspension and 2/3 councilors voting in favor. All those in favor say yes, raise your hand.
Yes.
That matter carries unanimously. Councilor Bassan.
Mr. President, I pride myself on listening to people, and I have always said that I'm not going to make decisions based off of my own opinion. Not that this was one, but we did have constituents reach out to us asking for a solution to some problems that they had regarding the odor of cannabis. However, it has become abundantly clear in the last 30 hours that unfortunately for those people, and my apologies, because I was truly trying to help without overstepping in some ways, and this bill is not going to be it, and I can see the writing on the wall. So I make a motion to amend the letter of introduction to withdraw 084. 084 is adopting a new article in ROA 1994, Chapter 9, Health, Safety, and Sanitation, to be known as the Personal Production of Cannabis Plants Ordinance.
Second.
And,
Go ahead.
Mr. President, thank you.
You have a second for Councilor Grout for the record. Go ahead.
Just for the public to understand what removing this from the letter of introduction means, it means that it will not be happening on my accord. We're not going to be moving it to the committee, and it's getting dropped. And I just want to just say one more thing. I mean, people can be nice about it at least. They're mean. And they shouldn't, no, and I know that that's kind of funny, but they've threatened my staff today. They have threatened me today, and I think that it is wrong. You can express your opinion about something, but you should not be hateful in the way that you go about doing something in order to express your opposition, and I do not appreciate that. I did hear them, but I really heard the kind people that would be educational and try to express their opinion, but for those people listening that were rude and angry and frankly mean with potential hate crimes, I think that that's a sad sign. So I would hope that in the future, if anybody has to reach out to council, I think most of us listen. So just be nice about it.
And on the matter of the withdrawal, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor say yes and raise your hand. That matter carries unanimously. I'll make a motion to amend the letter to withdraw EC 345 at the request of the administration, which was just placed on and now is withdrawn. EC 345 is declaring a parcel at 1250 Manal Northeast non-essential for municipal purposes, and it would be withdrawn. Okay. There's a second from Councilor Grout. All those in favor say yes and raise your hand.
Yes.
That matter carries unanimously.
Mr. President, I move approval of the letter of introduction as amended.
A motion and a second from Councilor Grout. I'm going to from Councilor Bassan. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say yes and raise your hand.
Yes.
That matter is unanimous. Thank you all. Councilors, we don't have any committees this evening. We're up for deferrals and withdrawals. I don't know of any. Are there any last-minute deferrals or withdrawals? Seeing none, we will move to our consent agenda. We have a couple of modifications. So let's start with Councilor Grout.
Mr. President, I pull R151, item E, off the consent agenda. And with regard to item H, R155 on the consent agenda, please let the record reflect my vote as recused. My business is on San Pedro in District 7, so to avoid the appearance of a conflict of interest, I'm going to recuse myself from voting on this one.
Thanks. And the clerk will so note the recusal.
Mr. President, I move approval of the consent agenda.
Thanks. Councilors, are there any other changes? Seeing none, all those in favor say yes and raise your hand.
Yes.
That matter carries unanimously. Councilor Grout, you had pulled 151, which is item E. Go ahead.
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. R-151, amending the adopted capital implementation program of the City of Albuquerque by approving new projects, supplementing current appropriations, and changing the scope of existing projects. I have a few questions about this one.
Mr. Rapp, I think.
Yes, sir. We have received the report, the fiscal year 2023 report on impact fees that have been collected and how they were distributed?
Mr. President, Mr. Montoya's department runs this bill. I may defer to the MD to provide you that information.
And he's here with backup.
Mr. President and Councilor Grout, DMD does not maintain the impact fee financial report. Director Varela is here and Mr. Brazar is here, and I guess they can explain when that report is to be presented, but we do not compile that.
Okay. Mr. Muniz, have you been able to find the impact fee report for fiscal year 2022?
President Davis, Councilor Grout, no, we kind of did some investigating and looking around and checked around with the council staff to see if that report had been presented to us, and we haven't been able to locate anything. The closest that we can get to obtaining the information that is required by the report is kind of cobbling together amounts from the monthly FSR report we receive from DMD. However, it doesn't provide everything that is required per the ordinance. And so we do our best to try to collect that information, but there are some additional items for the ordinance that it does not require.
Okay. Thank you for that, Mr. President. The impact fee ordinance established an impact fee advisory committee. Is that committee still meeting?
Mr. President and Councilor Grout, again, an answer for the planning department. My understanding, though, is that that committee is not formed and they have not met.
Okay, so that committee isn't staffed by the planning department or from DMD?
Mr. President and Councilor Grout, that is correct. It is not staffed by DMD. It's staffed by the planning department. I know that they had a new, or the previous administrator retired from the city, actually retired and then came back to work under contract. I'm not sure if they have a new person on board now or not.
Okay.
Mr. President, I'm sorry, Councilor Grout, I apologize for interrupting. Our planning staff is here. They may be able to give you a little bit of information of where the status is of this, because as Mr. Montoya said, this is really more in the planning world, not
And council leadership, this is exactly why we like these questions in advance, so that we don't feel that we're being sandbagged on those, because it would take a little bit of time to research it. I'd like to read the ordinance. What I understand from the city engineer is that that committee meets on an ad hoc basis as needed when there's going to be adjustments to impact fees and such. That's his understanding, but I have not personally dealt with the impact fee committee or the issue or read that particular ordinance. But we're happy to do that and provide some answers for you.
Okay, thank you, Director. These questions this was on the consent agenda, so I just had, it wasn't, I'm not trying to sandbag anybody. I wanted to know, are the impact fee revenue, is it being appropriated without council approval?
And once again, I'm not going to get into detailed answers for you without the ability to research them in advance, and apologize for not knowing in advance that these questions would be coming up, but we're happy to look into that.
Okay.
And Mr. President and Councilor Grout, just for your information, I mean, this bill does appropriate the interests of impact fees from the different categories. If your question is are the impact fees then utilized after they've been appropriated for specific projects that weren't listed, that may be a different conversation to have. But this bill does exactly that, as appropriates the interest and the impact fees that are in the fund for purposes of utilizing the fund.
When are we supposed to have the impact fee report for each year?
Mr. President and Councilor Grout, it appears from my planning staff that you have very good questions here related to this. And if this is a significant issue, I think that I would be happy to have this EC deferred, if you will, to the next council meeting. And we will provide you that information because I too would like to make sure that we have that information for you also. If you would like to defer this, that would be fine.
I would like it to be deferred because I would like to see the report by October 1st or October 2nd, I guess.
That would be
If
fine.
we could, yeah. Thank you.
So is that a motion for deferral?
I move a motion to defer EC 151. Or no, R 23-151, sorry.
And Councilor Benton offers a second on the motion for a deferral. Is there any other discussion from the council on the motion for deferral? Seeing none, all those in favor say yes, raise your hand.
Yes,
And we'll revisit that, I'm sure, in the meantime. Thank you, Councilor.
thank you. Okay.
And thank you to the administration. Announcements. Chairman Sanchez.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. President. There will be a Finance and Government Operations Committee meeting on Monday, September 11th at 5 p.m. via Zoom video conference.
Chairman Peeblecorn.
Thank you, Mr. President. The Land Use Planning and Zoning Committee meeting scheduled for Wednesday, September 13th is canceled.
Thank you, folks. There are no financial instruments on our agenda this evening. We're moving on to public comment. Members of the public are allowed to provide public comment to the City Council in person or virtually if they have signed up for public comment per our instructions that have been published on the agenda on our website each Friday. I think I recognize almost all the names, and so they know the rules, but here they are just in case. Each participant has 2 minutes to present. Comments must be addressed through the councilors, through the president, and of course, any disruptive comment that in the decision of the chair violates the rules may result in removal. There is a 2-minute time limit in person. You'll hear that familiar bell online. Mr. Cornelius has a fancy timer and a buzzer. You'll know it when you get to it. Mr. Cornelius, you have names.
Thank you, Mr. President. I do. Our first speaker tonight is Francesco Artist, followed by Quint Seckler.
Francesco, good to see you back.
Council President, Madam Vice President, against all odds, Street Cat Hub is able to minimize the homeless cat population in our community by offering free TNR services, which stands for trap, neuter, and release. Due to a stopgap in their funding, their amazing services came to a screeching halt for about 2 months. The follow-up from City Council was amazing to see. It was beautiful. The way City Council was like, no, that's not how we play this game. Wow. Without mentioning names, it starts with a P and it ends with Eaglecorn. Amazing the way that you were able to bridge that gap in such a powerful way. Thank you. I'm happy to say that Street Cat Hub is able to provide surgery once again. And as we speak, are gearing up to be able to do what they do so well because of you guys. So thank you, thank you, thank you. Which makes me so sad that half of you are no longer gonna be here because you don't just talk the talk, you walk the walk. And for those of you that have a well-deserved rest, thank you for your service. And for those of you who know how the sausage is made and you still want to do this, thank you. I wish I lived in District 4 because I would vote for you so hard. Thank you for being such a wonderful representative of we the people, not just the humans, but the furry kind. So thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm sorry, Councilor Pena. Francesco, don't go away.
Francesco, I think we all received your email. You had an incident in your yard. I hope the police responded, and I don't, I was just really trying to get some follow-up to find out if, you've been supported, because it's
very scary, very scary.
Serious situation.
I could go on for hours, and I would love to be able to, if it's allowed, I would love to be able to follow up privately if that's
Okay. Mr. President, so did the Southwest Area Command respond? And
Yes,
okay,
yes,
good.
yes, they did. Yes, they
Yeah,
did.
we can have a follow-up conversation. I know you're in Councilor Benton's district, I think now, but yeah, I'd like to, I hope everything's okay. So, okay, thank you, Mr. President.
Councilor Feeblecorn.
I just wanted to thank you for the very flattering likeness. I don't think anybody's ever drawn me or depicted me, so I really appreciate that. And I am really thankful for your work on the Street Cat Hub incident. We got it all solved, they're back going, and I want to thank you because I didn't know about it. So thanks for being an involved citizen.
Thanks, everybody. Thank you. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Quint Seckler, followed by James Freeman.
Mr. President, members of the council, my name is Quint Seckler, and I've been a swimming coach and very proud educator in Albuquerque for 35 years. I am here tonight to urge you to make the final push to get the North Domingo Baca Aquatic Pool project across the finish line. I was an original member of the group that started this push about 20 years ago. We are now so close to that finish line. As a high school coach for 30 years, I've been forced to squeeze my 50-plus high school team members into 4 to 5 pool lanes every year. As the owner of a club swim team for 15 years, I've only been able to secure 2 hours a week for 75 swimmers on my team, a team that would easily be 150 swimmers or more, given more space and time. I am only one of many coaches and teams around the city who struggle with limited pool space. 4 New Mexico cities, Carlsbad, Los Alamos, Farmington, and Las Cruces, average population 51,000 people. They all have one 50-meter aquatic facility. Albuquerque, population 573,000, has one 50-meter facility. Albuquerque has 10 times the number of competitive swimmers as any of these other cities, and we only have one 50-meter facility. It's not just swimmers. We need space for divers, we need space for water aerobics, we need space for scuba lessons, children's swim lessons, lap swimmers, water polo, and much more. There is no better physical activity than that of swimming. Those who participate in swimming activities are outstanding members of any community. It's time for Albuquerque to have another Olympic-sized swimming facility. I urge you to fund the final dollars for this facility so that we can get this pool open. Thank you.
Mr. President.
I heard Councilor Bassan first, and then I'll come to Councilor Grau.
I refrained from my other comment on the last thing, Mr. President, but Mr. Steckler not only is an educator in all things swim, he risks his life in the parent drop-off line every day at a middle school, so I have to say thank you anytime I get the chance.
Councilor Grau.
Mr. President, thank you. I have known Mr. Seckler for many years, and his wife and his daughter. My children are avid swimmers, and it all started when they were 6 years old. And the benefits for swimming and all things water related are something that these children and young adults can take for their whole lives. And so I am such an advocate for this facility, and I'm so excited that it's very close. Looking forward to it. Thank you for your service to the community, too.
Thank you.
James Freeman, followed by Tad Naminsky.
James Freeman. I do live in District 4. I want to reflect on the last meeting a little bit. Councilor Bassan, thank you for mentioning that only 60% of the STRs operate legally with the required permit. Councilor Feeblecorn, thank you for mentioning that we are in a housing crisis. It's disingenuous that they report the STR market is less than 1% of the housing stock. According to census.gov, there are 254 total housing units in Albuquerque. That includes all apartments, all long-term rental homes, all retirement communities, all trailers. Nearly all these rentals include a non-sublet clause. Towncharts.com explains that 40% of Albuquerque's housing is not sublettable. That represents over 100,000 units. This leaves 150,000 housing units as possibly sublettable. The speaker mentioned that there are 2,773 permitted STRs as of December. So the journal report that 40% are operating illegally, that puts the number at nearly 4,000. That means that 2.5% of the sublettable housing market is currently a short-term rental. Many of y'all own, operate, or are executives in private businesses. Small businesses are the pinnacle of American dream and the lifeblood of our economy, but I've never met a small business owner who's excited about paying taxes. STRs are businesses. I would love to see how many of these properties are set up as land trusts or other complex tax mitigation strategies. It's enlightening to hear that the planning director explained that no property has lost its permit in the 3-year process this has existed. Let us apply the Albuquerque logic to this situation. Do people buy a vehicle for purposes of illegal activity bother getting license plates for it? If APD ended plans and stopped collecting data on vehicles without license plates, will we assume that everybody is now driving a fully legal car in Albuquerque? Of course not. If someone would buy a property to make it Albuquerque gone wild year-round, would they bother getting a permit? What action does the city take if a property without a permit gets a violation? Surely I'm not asking a purely hypothetical situation here. Thank you kindly.
Tad Numisky, followed by Christopher Love.
My name Ted Niemiecki. I see that fire department chief is gone. Planning department director is gone too. Well, I got something to tell to the council what's going on, so they be aware of that. They not responding to my request. Over 2 weeks already. Now, here is another issue. There was fire in my neighborhood. In 2 months, 3 different days set fire. 2 months ago, first, 2 weeks ago, second, and then last week was third one, and burned up house almost not quite to the ground. So anyway, why that's happened? Where is fire department? Where is investigation? Where is arson people, etc., etc.? No, it is clear somebody, I heard a rumor that somebody from the city setting the fire, and then they blaming homeless people. I want people in Albuquerque to know about what's going on. Now, today, Council Bassan moved it to secret consent agenda. So people in her district in Albuquerque won't know they passing, they move from final to consent agenda. Bassan was on the 5 bills and other. Thank you.
Christopher Love, followed by Syra Dottie.
Hey everyone, my name is Christopher Love. I work with adults with disability to provide employment services to them. Earlier this week, I had kind of a frustrating experience working with within the city, and I realized, why make life worse? Why complain? So I would like to thank that everyone that I've worked with who is currently working to make the city a more inclusive employer. And so, thank you to President Davis. Thank you, Councilor Pena. Thank you, Councilor Benton. Thank you, Councilor Jones. Thank you, Councilor Bassan. I apologize to the rest of you, but you guys are newer than I've started working on this, so I have yet to work with you. Thank you to Anthony Romero from the HR department. Thank you to Diane Kimberly from HR. Thank you to Rebecca Fry from the Biopark. Thank you to Ethan Walston, the city clerk. Thank you to Ashley Santestefan from the city clerk's office. Roxanne Cisneros from the Parks Department. Erica Eddy from 311 and DTI. Thank you to Jeff Hertz. Thank you to Rachel Hernandez. Thank you to Garrett Cornelius. Thank you to Director Leslie Keener of Transit. Thank you to Doreen De La Cruz from Transit and Paul Madrid from Transit. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Love.
Mr. President.
Councilor Pena.
Just real quick, Chris, you don't have to come back up, but I just really, we passed a resolution. I think it was, it's been a bit already, and our, Mr. Romero with HR, they've been just really trying to figure out how we can do some more inclusive hiring. I think it would behoove us maybe to work with people like Chris, who has a company who knows how to place people who have disabilities. And so I would ask the administration if we could really look at ways, and of course our city council department, on ways how we can, partner with Chris to really be able to find people in our community looking for jobs. I know with HR, it's been a little bit of a challenge just because some people, oh, there's Mr. Real, there's some people that have challenges with filling out resumes or the like, and sometimes people need job coaches to be able to be successful at their job. So it's really a different way of thinking. I know we passed the resolution. Tell me, Chris, how long ago has it been?
It was in August of 2020, so
August 2020.
it's been a while.
So it's been a little bit, and I think we could really kind of gear up and try to figure out how to make sure we can make this happen, because there's lots of wonderful people out there just looking for employment, and I know we have a lot of jobs here at the city that can be filled. So just wanted to say that, Mr. President. Thank you. Thank you, Chris.
Thank you, guys.
Our next speaker is Syra Dottie, followed by Neil Gatherum on Zoom.
Hi, I'm Sierra Doty. I knew the pronunciation would be fun. I've come to talk about the Aquatic Center. I have lived here for 4 years in Albuquerque, and I moved here from the Northern Virginia area. And when I first moved here, I was actually kind of shocked by the lack of the aquatic facilities here, and especially long course pools. Fairfax County, where I come from, has 12 aquatic facilities. 9 of them are indoor recreation natatoriums, 4 facilities with 50-meter pools, and with the floors that actually go down, unlike West Mesa. These rec centers offer swim lessons, dive lessons, lifeguard classes, water aerobics, swim lessons for all ages, lap swimming, space for party rentals so kids can have birthday parties there. They also have lap swimming and much more, including like water rescue classes, anything you can think of. I'm a mom of 2 swimmers. One's my club team swimmer, and one's my high school swimmer. Currently, my son, who swims for La Cueva, he has to drive 30 minutes during rush hour traffic, even as a new driver down there, and many of the kids have had car accidents going to and from Highland Pool from La Cueva. It's not a short drive, especially when you're a brand new swimmer or brand new driver. Many of the students, my son comes back and said one kid or another has had accidents, just that 30-minute drive, so having one a little closer to our area, because we don't currently have one, would be wonderful. My daughter had to go back to Virginia this summer. One of the things we did was so she could have long course time, because we can't get long course time here in New Mexico, so we went to Virginia to get some 50-meter swimming in, and I know others who had to do it go to Texas just to get their time in. The opportunities that New Mexico will have in Albuquerque are tremendous, and it's already over. I just finished looking. Yeah, the tourism it'll bring in is amazing, and the amount of money.
Councilor Sanchez had a question for you.
Yes, thank you. Ms. Dottie, I just wanted to say, thanks for your comments. I think they're awesome, and I do agree with you 100%. We need more swim facilities in the city of Albuquerque. Most recently, the city of Albuquerque, this council, and the administration have done major renovations over at West Mesa to make sure that it is a better place for our young swimmers. And I just want to make sure that, that facility is serving you the way it needs to be. And I look forward to actually helping this council move forward on the North Domingo Baca project. I think it's something that's very, very much needed in the city of Albuquerque. And I too am the father of 2 swimmers who actually went through, and I'd really like to see a state swim meet held at one of our facilities instead of a private pool in Albuquerque. So thank you so much for your comments.
And the West Mesa, we can't have the long course here because the floor is stuck, and it's been stuck apparently since it was built. So
That's
we
right.
gave it.
We did address that. Mr. What's the parks director's name? Mr. Simon has some plans for that as well. I don't know if that fixing the actual level and raising level and dropping level is going to happen, but I think there's some ideas that they have to make it a little bit better. I understand that.
Thank you.
Our next speaker on Zoom is Neil Gatherum, followed by Kelly Harrell.
Mr. President and members of the council, my name is Maria Garza Starnes. Neil and I are with Lamar Advertising and are on the team that is responsible for the bus and shelter advertising contract with ABQ Ride. As a longstanding partner, Lamar has created local jobs, provided the city with over $5.3 million in advertising revenue, and assisted hundreds of local businesses promote their products and services through bus advertising. I'm here to speak in regards to Council Bill R-23-152 that was part of the August 21st City Council meeting. Our understanding is that there are 2 main concerns related to bus advertising. Number 1, perceived rider safety. Number 2, brand consistency for ABQ Ride. As written, this bill will eliminate advertising on the exterior of the buses, and as a byproduct, this will also eliminate nearly $500,000 in annual advertising revenue for the city. As well, this will eliminate the opportunity for local businesses to efficiently promote their products and services in the local communities. Through collaborative communication with other municipalities, partners across the country, we have created a menu of viable solutions that address your concerns. Last week, we met and presented this information to the ABQ Ride team. We hope that you, as the city council body, are receptive to continuing the conversation and hearing the success stories that other cities prior to the bill being enacted so that the city of Albuquerque can benefit from its advertising program that encompasses rider safety, transit authority branding, a cost-effective way for local businesses to promote their products and services, and advertising revenue that generates nearly $500,000 each year for the city while securing local jobs in the Albuquerque community. Mr. President, thank you for your time.
Kelly Harrell, followed by Jay Modi.
Hi, I'm Kelly Harrell, and I am the co-leader for the Citizen Initiative for the North Domingo Baca Aquatic Center, and thank you for giving me a chance to speak. Sorry, I'm a bit out of breath. I had to run. So, okay. I just wanted to thank Councilor Bazan for her excellent questions, and Mr. Montoya and Mr. Real for sharing some follow-up information to give more idea into the RFP and development process for this project. I'm here to request tonight that the City of Albuquerque and Parks and Rec provide a more comprehensive and updated timeline on this project, on this Aquatic Center project, including things like the permits that were mentioned earlier and groundbreaking and any other kind of development steps that are going to occur. Because of this extreme citywide interest and statewide interest in the project, there were a lot of eyes on the timeline. And what we have right now is, sorry, I'm out of breath, is very old. So it needs quite a bit of updating. And we have citizens who are asking intelligent questions. They want to know why there's delays. We want to see better tracking with the timeline. And right now, there's a lot of delays that have occurred. So if we can get better eyes on that, because what happens when you have this kind of interest in a project so widespread is that citizens will fill in the blanks with their own information. So I think we do have some miscommunications happening. And if the city can provide more optics into this, it would be incredibly helpful. We would like to share that information and have it be more accurate through our website, social media channels, and all of our other communication methodologies. Thanks.
Jay Modi, followed by Patricia Wilson. You're muted, sir.
Good evening, Mr. President and respected councilors. My name is Dr. Jay Modi. I moved to Albuquerque from upstate New York, and I'm employed with Intel. With the ongoing expansion at Intel, there will be more movement from other states for getting employed with Intel. I have 2 avid swimmers and have been an active volunteer swim official with U.S. Swimming here in New Mexico for many years. Today, I come before you to advocate for the North Domingo Baca Aquatic Center. For over 20 years, our city has waited for a world-class facility. Generations of swimmers, divers, water polo players, and more have been denied access to top-notch amenities and events. This aquatic center would be a game changer, providing opportunities for talented local athletes to develop skills, qualify for national teams, and earn college scholarships. Without adequate facilities, many leave the state, and we lose out on nurturing homegrown champions. The economic benefits are immense. Large regional meets could generate over $1 million for local businesses. Year-round events would deliver a steady stream of revenue from visiting competitors and fans staying in hotels, dining in restaurants, and shopping in stores. Millions of dollars will be injected annually into Albuquerque's economy. The health and wellness benefits are equally impactful. Swimming promotes fitness for all ages. Lessons build safety and life-saving skills. Recreational activities foster community bonds across generations. Aquatic therapy aids rehabilitation. This facility would be a hub for health, family, and social connection. Albuquerque has ample soccer fields, but no Olympic pools for major competitions. After waiting for decades, we must make this aquatic center the priority it deserves to be. The North Domingo Baca Aquatic Center will be a jewel, benefiting our community for generations to come. The time is now. I urge you to prioritize its construction. Thank you.
Patricia Wilson.
President Davis and councilors, in your last 2 meetings, you heard about 2 specific neighborhood associations' efforts to improve the quality of life in their neighborhoods. Santa Fe Village to the west and Embudo Canyon to the east. There are 166 recognized neighborhood associations, 9 coalitions, and an intercoalition council formed nearly 10 years ago by the late Dr. Joe Valles. Its purpose to promote stronger, better neighborhoods and communities. An ICC committee began reviewing the 2022 IDO annual update in mid-April and continued meeting nearly every Friday through August. With an average of 14 folks per meeting, that represents an enormous investment in civic engagement. The ICC IDO committee is currently working on ways to codify metrics to gauge the success of Housing Forward. A recent article in the Downtown Albuquerque News provided an instructive Q&A guide to what the coming casita construction may look like, and was pretty clear that this is not about affordable housing. Quote, if the experience of other parts of the country is any indication, what comes next could be more of a trickle than a deluge. It may turn out that the most momentous thing that happened on the local housing front this year was not the technical details of casita liberalization, but the sheer fact that the political leaders dared to touch the third rail that is zoning in single-family neighborhoods. Having done it once and lived to tell about it, they may well do it again, unquote. The first statement on the first page of the IDO says that, quote, The purpose of this IDO is to implement the adopted ABC comprehensive plan. Council should review the comp plan and CPA assessments and stop providing substantive changes to the IDO through the annual update process. Thank you.
Mr. President, that concludes general public comment.
Thank you all. Next up, we have no appeals this evening and approvals. First up, EC 337. And councilors, unless there's any objection, I think we're just going to try to move through this, right? We normally take our break here, but I think we're close. I see lots of nodding heads, right? So we're all right. Just checking. First up, EC 337. I make a motion to approve EC 337, which is the city's labor management agreement with CBA with Albuquerque Police Officers Association. Is there a second? Second from Council Feeblecorn. Mr. Cornelius, there's no one to speak on any of these bills, right? Okay. We're going to move first. Let's go straight to the administration to very briefly give us a summary of anything, the major items here. Mr. Real, I see your labor
Mr. President,
liaison.
Our labor liaison is here, and they'll give you a brief report on each of these.
Congrats on your new position. Not far from home.
So what?
You're not far from your old position.
That's true. It is a 3-year, Mr. President, Council, it is going to be a 3-year contract that we did sign with the APOA. It does allow for a raise each year, including, excuse me, 5% for the FY23 and 4% for FY24. The FY25 would be determined by the council, and they would get whatever is appropriated during that period by the council.
Thank you, Mr. Norton. Councilors, any questions? And we, just a reminder from maybe our budget chair staff, we set money aside reserved for this, right? I seem to remember, or we have salaries. Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Rao. That's right, right? I seem to remember us doing something like that.
Mr. President, that's correct. And if you'll recall also, one of the reasons this contract is what it is the legislature, as you recall, appropriated additional funding in order to keep public safety personnel on board, and so that lended some additional funding to help get this contract resolved.
Great. Well, we appreciate the governor and the legislature for that. All right, seeing no other discussion. Motion on the floor is for approval. All those in favor say yes and raise your hand, please. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. All those that matter carries unanimously. Don't go far, sir. I bet you have the next one. I'll make a motion to approve EC 338, which is the CBA with our prisoner transport officers. We have a second. I heard Councilor Grout this time. Sure.
This is going to be similar to a 3-year contract, similar to the AFSCME contracts, which does give 3.5% for FY23 and 3% for FY24. That it is going to be a council-determined or appropriated raise in FY25.
Thank you, sir. Councilors, are there any questions? Anything else from the administration? Seeing none, all those in favor say yes and raise your hand. All those, that's unanimous. Congrats. You had the easiest piece tonight.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks. We're going to skip our other personnel thing for just a minute, go to final actions, and then we'll end on our council director conversation. Councilor Benton, do you mind taking R164?
Thank you, Mr. President. Yes, R164 is directing the administration of the city to install street trees at the Albuquerque Biopark and making appropriation. I move a do pass.
A second from Councilor Jones. Councilor Benton, back on the bill.
Yes, Mr. President and councilors, as was discussed, there, trees and street trees are, well, anyone who's heard me probably knows that I think it's a big deal, but I think it's really a big deal. Landscaping requirements, whether on private property, for development approvals, but also in the public right-of-way, are more and more important as the climate changes. It is getting warmer, and that's pretty clear. In Albuquerque, our climate's considerably warmer than when I first came here in 1976. And street trees are a big part of that to improve our environment in the public realm, which is side of a street. And we've had a street tree ordinance for many years. The IDO also rolled that into the IDO when the zoning codes were updated and they refer to the street tree ordinance. But I think there was some language in the IDO that probably we need to tackle in the next update. And I reject the idea that we should not be updating our zoning code on a regular basis. You know, in the business world, it's called, you know, continuing quality improvement. You want to take a look at what's working and you want to update your procedures accordingly. Anyway, so that's something that will need to happen, and I won't be here for it, but I hope that gets done. A little clarification there. But the biopark, as with any other entity, when they're developing, normally would be required to put in street trees. Any significant development in the private sector over and above small remodels and things like that are required to comply with the ordinance. And it's only applicable to commercial quarters and major streets, not to residential streets. So anyway, this is just trying to correct that misinterpretation. I think there was some confusion on the part of perhaps of the design team as to whether the street tree ordinance applied or whether the IDO applied. The IDO is more for private development and what needs to go into place on private property. So this is a different situation. And we did have I think, an appeal a while back when there was a lot of discussion about where the street trees should be placed and so forth. So just trying to keep in line with that.
Thank you, Councilor Benton. Mr. Rao, does the administration oppose trees?
Mr. President and Councilor Benton, we have no problem with complying with this report. I had actually already asked Arts and Culture to move forward with getting the trees put together, but I appreciate your patience with us on this particular issue. I think this is one of those that maybe too many hands on on the project, but let's there you go, Councilor. So we'll get it done. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Councilors, any other questions? Seeing none, the motion on the floor is do you need to close?
Urge your support.
Motion on the floor is for approval of RS 164. All those in favor say yes and raise your hand.
Yes.
That matter carries unanimously. Councilors, we're up to our last item this evening. It's OC 38. It's the selection of the Director of Council Services. And pursuant to our procedures, I'll move confirmation of Mr. Isaac Padilla. Is there a second? A second from Councilor Jones. For those following along, we have a little bit of a weird process here. Our rules of procedure state that in the event of an absence or an absence in the office of the Director of Council Services, a committee of 3 councilors and the President shall undertake a search and preliminary screening. That committee has met. It made a selection and recommended the appointment of Mr. Isaac Padilla to the position, which brings us to this point. In order to confirm Mr. Padilla to the position, we need a 2/3 votes of those present, which is 6 votes. We'll start. Mr. Padilla, your floor. Are you sure you want to do these meetings again?
Mr. Chairman and Mr. President, yes, I definitely do. I look forward to actually working with the council, look forward to working with the council staff to provide the services that you guys need to achieve the objectives that you guys want to put forward. I know that the city council is, it's a co-equal branch of government. It's what's set in our charter, and it's important that if city council when city council is successful, then that means the residents of the city of Albuquerque are successful. And I believe strongly in democracy, and I think that their founders, the way that they set up the city was so that we had these two co-equal branches, and this branch needs to be as successful as it can be to actually have the democratic process work in the city of Albuquerque. So I look forward to working with you. I look forward to working with staff to provide you the services that you need.
Thank you, Mr. Padilla. Councilors, any questions for the nominee?
Mr. President.
Lewis.
Yeah, Mr. President, thank you, Mr. Padilla. I was just honored to serve on that committee. Thank you, Mr. President, for having me on that committee, along with Councilor Pena, Councilor Feeblecorn, yourself, and myself. And I think we went through an extensive process, and this is an important position, and we want our staff to be well taken care of and well led, and we want to be able to have the kind of staff that's going to serve us well. And so I know that was a unanimous decision among our committee to recommend Mr. Padilla, and we're glad that he's willing to accept the position, and looking forward to working with him.
Councilors, anything else? Any other questions, inquiries? Councilor Benton.
Just a comment. Finishing up my 18th year on the council, and I'll say that I've always had the highest regard for our staff. We've had a terrific staff, been a pleasure to work with all these years, and many of you have been here the same amount of time as I have. And I know that you, Mr. Padilla, have experienced a lot of what an excellent group we have. You know, we do need to maintain that robust staff, and you know, the resignation of Mr. Melendres was you know, kind of honestly caught me and I think others by surprise. And I think we've had this discussion, and I appreciate our discussion with regard to this, but it's really important that we, in some key areas, staff up, and obviously we've got some great people, but we can always use a little bit more brain power on the staff, I think specifically at the highest level. So I appreciate your consideration of that, moving forward with that. But more than anything, I just wanted to say thanks to our staff for all the years of service and working with, and also to Mr. Moya for really having filled in very well as an interim director. So just some comments there. Welcome.
Mr. Chair, Mr. President, thank you, Councilor.
Councilor Jones.
Thank you, Mr. President. Isaac, I haven't put in as many years as Ike. I'm only at 16 years. But I can tell you it's always been a pleasure and usually a good laugh out of working with you. You are a very bright and amusing person, and thank you for being willing to do this. I'm almost, but not quite, tempted to stick around and play the game a little more, but that's not going to happen. So, thank you, Isaac, for doing this.
And let me join with Councilor Benton and others in saying thank you to Julian Moya, who stepped up to us to be our interim director. I think, assuming that Mr. Padilla is confirmed, I think we'll ask Mr. Moya if he'll stick around with us for a few more weeks and help us with that transition, and hope that I know he'll continue to serve with us at the council and be an asset, and I thank you for that. This was an interesting summer, to say the least, and I appreciate your time and attention. And Mr. Padilla, thank you so much. I know you've served a number of folks in different places, from serving Congresswoman, now our governor, to the mayor's office and others, but I think your relationships in New Mexico with folks that we have to work with are incredibly important. And we have a lot of challenges, and I want to echo Councilor Benton. You know, we have a great staff, and quite frankly, I think we have to maintain it, and I think there's a conversation about growing our staff and our capacity and our staff capacity and their skill set, and maybe even growing to be sure that we're growing to meet the needs of the city, right? Our budget has expanded by nearly a third over this administration in the last 6 years overall, and I think we need to be sure that we can keep up with that and respond to those things, and we see the number of folks here. I know you've expressed an interest in helping us do that, and I'm excited to hear more on your recommendations and with working with our staff about sort of what that next generation looks like. I appreciate that very much, and I do appreciate the members of our committee who spent lots of hours along with Ms. Ortega, Mandy, and others who really did help us sort of sort through a number of qualified, excellent applicants. And I think we'd like to see a number of them come to the city in positions that we think are excellent too. But I really want to say thank you, congrats. I've considered you a friend for years, and I appreciate your work that you've done, and even when we've disagreed, you've done it well and represented whoever you were working for. And when I lost, I got mad, but you know, not necessarily because you did it wrong. It's because you beat me at that, and I hope you'll be beating some folks for us a time or two. Councilor Graff.
Thank you, Mr. President. I wanted to thank the committee that spent the time going through all of the applicants and asking tough questions and coming up with this gentleman here. I've heard lots of different points of view. I've talked with Isaac several times, and he's had some. I'm looking forward to working with you too. I think that you're going to do a lot of great things in council services. You're going to bring a lot of value, and I look forward to the great things that can happen. and I'm going to hold you accountable. But I want to thank the committee that did spend the time. I respect your decision, and I understand why you made the choice you made. So thank you. Thank you all.
Seeing no other discussion or questions from councilors, Mr. Padilla to close.
Mr. President? Mr. President?
Mr. Real.
Mr. President, if I might just say a few words. First and foremost, we also have worked with Isaac for some period of time, and look, I think he made a good point, that is that serving the council well with information and getting information really helps the city as a whole, as an organization. And having someone with that experience and that breadth of knowledge really is helpful. I've always found that contacting the council services director can save a lot of questions and a lot of discussion at the dais if we're able to have a good relationship. And so I would congratulate him and congratulate you all for picking a good person that I think will serve the city well.
Mr. Padilla to close.
Well, Council President, thank you for this opportunity. Well, I do plan to use the information that I've gained or the knowledge that I've gained working at the federal level, the state level, in this administration, and of course at council. I know I've worked with a lot of the individuals in the council staff when I was in council, worked with a lot of the individuals in council staff when I was serving under this mayor, but all that information, all that knowledge that I do have, I can assure you that information is going to be used to make each one of you successful as much as I can, to do whatever I can to make you successful and the body as a whole successful. And I know that working with council staff and providing the services that you need, I have no doubt that we'll be able to work with you guys to move our city forward.
Thank you, sir. Councilors, the motion on the floor is for confirmation of Mr. Isaac Padilla to the position of Director of Council Services. That's OC 38. All those in favor say yes and raise your hand. All those opposed? By 8-1, that matter carries. There being no other business, this city council meeting is adjourned. Congratulations, sir.
Thank you. Now the craziness starts.